I'm a Zen Buddhist priest. I'm ordained under the Zen Peacemaker Order by Roshi Bernie Glassman Soto Zen lineage out of Japan. I just turned 87 years old, January 8th, the same day that my youngest daughter turned 34. My grandchildren, and I'm very, very wealthy from the perspective of a wonderful, loving family, which I give love to, and I receive huge amounts of love. I feel connected to a lot of people. Here in Delray Beach, where Noemi and I, my wife, Noemi Santana, live, we have found a welcoming community, both in the Hive and in the Set. The Set is where the original Black Bohemian community immigrated and created Delray Beach, and the Hive is where an organization by the name of Soil and Soul is located. I became a board member early on when I came in 2 years ago, and now I have the privilege of being given the stewardship for the chairmanship and seeing how we can make the wonderful offerings that Soil and Soul has been making for 17 years into a wider scope, wider reach to a lot of people. I'm conducting my YouTube channel to try to do good and do well. And the do well is that one should be able to make a decent living and live well within the scope of what living well means. We have a wonderful, beautiful house here, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But overall, when you look at life and death as being of supreme importance, I am healthy. I have no illnesses that I know of, no conditions that I know of, other than some issues with my one eye. I play softball 4 times a week, and in a Palm Beach senior softball league, and that is precious to me. It is beautiful. The people there, the men there, the women there are just absolutely outstanding, and people of incredible spirit, sportsmanlike. Most of them grew up as athletes, and they bring that ethics, that camaraderie, by and large, the ability to be team players and have fun at our age. I have pictures with a young man that came in Friday. He's 100 years old, and he is totally mobile, healthy, lucid, and possibly could still play. He stopped playing about 6 or 7 years ago by the command of his family. So here I am this Saturday, and I want to be able to share with you transparently my journey and where I've come from, what I've done, and where I am. I've been an entrepreneur pretty much all my life. I attended Iona College, now Iona University in New Rochelle, New York. I graduated in 1964, the same day, the same year that my daughter was born, my 62-year-old daughter, who is also a very successful entrepreneur in Pensacola, Florida, where she runs a Pensacola lifestyle magazine, which she owns. Yeah, and so here I am. And what is it that I now struggle with, if you want to use that word? And the word is that as a monk, I do not own anything. My wife really is the owner of all the assets, if there are some, and there's some assets all based on property. But I find myself challenged because of the lack of cash flow. Notice that I didn't say I was poor, because my grandmother told me a long time ago, I'll tell you that story some other time, when I was confronted by some young kid at the age of 6 at some private Catholic school that I was attending in Puerto Rico at the age of, I guess, 5 or 6. And he said, you don't belong here because this is a private school and you are poor, and this is a school where our parents are not poor, they have money. They're wealthy. And my grandmother, in response to my question about what that meant, said, we're not poor, we've never been poor, and we'll never be poor. What we do have is a condition of not having any money, cash flow, but poor we're not. And I want you to get that out of your head, and that stayed with me. So poor I'm not. But I have cash flow problems in which, because of a lack of income, of both my wife, who turned 80, January 18, we may even have to sell this house. But I don't give up. I still believe that I have a lot to offer to the world in the doing good part. The doing well part, it's okay. We Buddhists believe in dana, and dana comes in 3 ways. You receive material things, like money. You receive the teachings of the ancients and the mystics and the wise people. And the last one is always put in a negative form. It's to give no fear. So I want to be able to model all these 3 conditions in many, many ways. And although it sounds easy, it's not easy. The 3 tenets that I operate from is the 3 tenets of the Zen Peacemaker Order and the Zen Peacemaker International, of which board I served on. And Bernie Glassman left us a compass, you might say. In the old days in China, they used to teach young kids very early on the main precepts of our lineage or our belief system, and the Chinese taught this before Buddhism came to China. And so Buddhism came to China like probably 1700 years ago, 1800 years ago. And they used to teach the kids 3 simple things that they used to inculcate, brain brand into the little kids by repetition. Do good, do no evil or do no harm to anyone or anything, no sentiency, to anything that's sentient, and do good for others. Do good, do no harm, and do good for others. Bernie took those and made them into not knowing, being open to all the things that emerge on a moment-to-moment basis in all our lives, with an open mind and mainly an open heart, not judgment. The do no harm, he translated into bearing witness, present and presencing of the joys and the pain, the suffering of the world. So if I'm suffering right now from lack of cash and cash flow, big time, sometimes it affects our food supply, sometimes it affects a lot of things that happen here. When you have a house, sewage flowing on the house, having to have it drained, and all the other things that houses end up doing, roof issues and things like that, and having to attend to them. So bearing witness with no judgment. And the last one he had translated originally as loving action, but he took out the loving out because he thought the adjective defined action, and action should not be defined based on the first 2. not knowing and bearing witness. That action is whatever is appropriate to manifest and do and actualize. Beautiful, beautiful tenets. Hard to practice and hard to comprehend. I just noticed I got my Florida hat on. Sometimes I put hats on, I don't even know what they are, but I put this hat on because my name is Francisco Lugovina, initials FL, Florida, Francisco Lugovina. Anyway, yeah, the kids in the South Bronx would say, I'm bam broke, bro. Yeah, I'm bam broke. But as you can see, I don't suffer from depression or sadness about any of that. I just think, I choose to believe, I always have, choose to believe that some of the bumps in the road and some of the slap down and some of the fall downs are opportunities. And I think, and I believe that we live in an age of abundance. Abundance meaning possibilities, endless possibilities to do whatever it is you want to do in your wonderful mind. If you stop thinking about, the things that sometimes a lot of us have done in our lives, feeling shame, feeling not enough, feeling the imposter syndrome, feeling that I am not ready, I got to study some more, and when I'm ready, I'll be able to do this. We become our worst enemy because we become absolutely negative, and we begin to think about planning and doing all kinds of things that need to happen before we do this. Nada. Not knowing, bearing witness. Do it. Do it. And so I'm preaching this, but I'm telling you that I'm learning how to practice it more and more at 87 and understand the fact that this is not Kool-Aid. This is not quick fix. This is about commitment, taking a vow, acting as if your hair is on fire and you're looking for water, developing the passion for being able what you do, regardless of whether you're doing it perfect or not. I have a lot of videos on YouTube, and in my opinion, they're little nuggets in there, but are they the perfect videos? Some people would say they suck. Well, maybe they do. But that doesn't stop me from continuing to record, to talk, because there's something that I may say that might reach someone who is absolutely looking for that, just that little piece of messaging from somebody like me. I was born in Puerto Rico in 1939. We were about to go to war, Second World War, where it was possible that either the end of the world was coming or a world so dystopia that it was hard to imagine, with the Japanese and their particular sense of what they were and what they saw the world, and Germany with the sense of white supremacy, the Aryan race, and that everybody else was an inferior creation of the Lord. The noise you hear is the truck picking up the recycling. I just have to notice that and say, I'm grateful. They're coming up and picking up things. But I think I can probably edit that noise out later on. But it's interesting. I'm happy they're here. So during that time, my father had left for New York. He ended up getting off the boat that he was on, in which he was a stowaway. But there's question. My sister said that he paid, but I'm not sure about that because he jumped the boat in New Orleans. And his story, told to me by him, was that they told him, "You've already been caught 2 times, and no one has ever been caught by the mule, the guy who got paid, who stole them away." He said, "Jump out in New Orleans because we're going there for fuel. Take a bus to New York, and then do whatever you want to do." And he did that. He went to New Orleans, and he stayed there for 2 years, which gives me sometimes some thoughts that I may have some Afro-American brothers and sisters from the South somewhere around, because my father was a very handsome man, and he had a gift of gab, and 2 years in New Orleans without being active as a young man seems not reasonable or acceptable to me. But that's something that I have to look up to see if there are more Lugovinas in my Afro-American lineage on that side, because I have an Afro-American lineage from the people who came from Puerto Rico. As a black man from Puerto Rico, we all share that wonderful, wonderful lineage from that tragic event of slavery. We lived very poor at that point, not in spirit, but in terms of things. There was really poverty from the point of view of lack of food, lack of resources in the war. And Puerto Rico has always been a stepchild, a colony, a possession, owned stock and barrel by the United States, with tremendous disdain by the people that were sent there as governors or as experimenters of people. The guy who gets credit for creating the cancer center in New York, the Sloan Kettering, was a man that experimented with cancer cells in Puerto Rico with many, many people, and claimed that he killed around 8 or 9 people doing that, and claimed that in a letter that he wrote that was discovered and is available in YouTube, anywhere you want to find that letter, you can find it if you want to, where he says that Puerto Ricans were the worst people in the world, and he would not felt disgusted being in the same island with those people, and that his joy would be when they would be exterminated, eliminated. You don't believe that, right? It sounds like an exaggeration, doesn't it? Yeah, it does to me too. Yeah, but that's what the letter says. And there's a documentary. I saw it. If you go to YouTube and you put in Puerto Rico in YouTube, you get all the YouTubes on Puerto Rico, and there you'll get a video. I think the producer's Johnny Harris. Take a look at that. At any rate, my being here is because I want to continue to talk about the world that we live in and the world that challenges us every day with almost questions about what are we doing here? Who are we? What am I supposed to do? How can I contribute? How do I find happiness? How do I find happiness? I know that, the world and the universe smacks you around, but how do I find happiness? I really want to find happiness. That's a question that most people don't even want to ask. It's just, just seems too esoteric. Like happiness is so unreachable. And we're always looking for happiness out there. And we're getting poisoned by advertising, by news, by CNN, by MSNBC, by Fox, by the newspaper, by the New York Times, by the Washington Post, by the Los Angeles Times, by the, Boston Pioneer, whatever it is. We get poisoned. We get fed. We get fed this information. And most of the time, the Murdoch empire feeds the population negative sensationalism, crime, so that you become more and more sad. How do I find happiness? How can I give love to somebody or to something and receive love? How can I truly, truly connect with myself, first and foremost? I don't even know who I am. I am so full of emotion, so full of confusion, so full of contradictions. This is what I want to do and this is what I do. And they're different. What I do sometimes is not what I want to do. What I do is sometimes not what I like. What I do sometimes I don't think is so good, so ethical. How can I connect to myself so that I can find my essence, find that teacher inside of me that knows everything? The one that I have never listened to. The one that I have never wanted to listen to. Because it tells me too many truths that I don't want to hear. So I stay in my space of complaining, bitching, moaning. I stay in my mud hole. Complaining about the mud hole and not getting out. And then how do I connect to others? If indeed I end up having some level of connecting with myself. I live my life with all the issues that I just shared with you. Because I was a very successful entrepreneur. 5 years ago, I sold my properties and I walked away with $3.5 million net out, except for capital gains. But still a lot of money. I don't have a penny. How do I deal with that? How do I deal with it? Well, for me, what I do is I deal with gratitude. Gratitude, dude. That Zen Buddhist stuff is getting out of hand. How can you be grateful? You're broke. But what about health? How about my health? I am as healthy at 87 as I've ever been. I am loved by my family, by my wife, and by people around me, big time. And I give love, big time. Steve Jobs had millions of dollars, billions, and he died young. His last speech, he said he never dreamt that he was going to be the richest man in the cemetery. Well, if I die today, I'm not going to be the richest man in the cemetery, but I'm certainly going to be a happy dude. And Steve Jobs would trade places with me right now. Give up all his billions of dollars. So it's not about money. That's my main message. It's not about, there's nothing wrong with money. Money is a tool. Because people hear me say that and they say, well, we got to reject money. Nah. I haven't said that. I grew up as a Catholic being told that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man. Therefore, if you're rich, it is very difficult to find anything that is similar to love and happiness and joy and love giving and love receiving. That's not true. Love doesn't, money is a tool. Money is an inanimate object. Your identification with money, you're putting certain values on money, that's a different story. That's a different conversation, or a different talk, or whatever it is. And so I get up with gratitude and I say, I am grateful for all that I've been given, and I am grateful for all that I have not been given. Why? Because in the not giving, the universe has a huge, huge balance sheet, space, conditions, time. The universe can give you a lot, both on the positive and the negative. So being grateful for what you don't have runs into that, from my perspective, runs into that. That's cool, man. I know what I got. I know where I am. Universe, thank you for not making it harder. You can give me diseases. You can, there's a lot of people with limbs missing, eyes missing, with physiology missing of all sorts. But there's a lot of people like that who are also very, very happy because they found what really happiness is. They don't identify with their body. They don't identify with, I am this body. They don't even identify with this mind. With this, not necessarily the mind, but the brain and the electrical currents that go in the mind, and the synapses and the trigger of emotions and thoughts and actions that we all have. They identify more with the big mind, the mind of universality, the mind of interconnectedness, the mind of love, of compassion, of care. Their bodies might be all messed up, but they're cool. A lot of people, by the way, figure that out in the last hours of in their deathbeds. And if you don't believe that, go to YouTube again and put in the 5 regrets of people in their deathbeds. It's a good thing for you to do that, because if you're alive and you're not done yet, you want to learn that you don't want to have some of those regrets that those people have. And they studied thousands of people. And the more common 5 things that came out from those thousands of people in their deathbed, there were 5 things. And I'm not going to tell you what the 5 things are. I want you to go check it out. And so my life has been about serving people. I've been an entrepreneur. I've made money. I've lost money. But money has never been that blinding passion for me. And one of the reasons that I became involved with Soil and Soul in Delray Beach, which a gentleman by the name of Pablo de Real founded 17 years ago, is that the flavor of Soil and Soul is to create well-being for all humanity, to eliminate and minimize what Buddhism calls the 3 poisons, which is anger, hatred, and ignorance. And those words, you think you know what they mean. Anger, ignorance, you think you know what they mean, but you don't. You have to really look at not only the etymology of the words, but also what it's meant. So, when I get up in the mornings and I land on gratitude, that's how I land. And then, of course, I land also in the fact that unless I am conscious of how everything is so impermanent, change is, and you know, some of you are scientists, some of you are biologists, some of you are well educated, some of you are not so well educated. But whether you're well educated or you're not well educated, you know that change happens every day. Change happens in your body. You're not the same body that you were when you were a baby, or when you were 7 years old, when you were 18 years old or 20 years old. Your organs change, your liver changes, your skin drops into your bed every night, to the result that if you have a magnifying glass and you look at your bed sheet, you find skin bugs or bed bugs that they call them sometimes. But the bed bugs that are bad for you, which bite you. But there's also skin bugs that are alive and well, and when you put them in the microphone, they look like skin, and that it is that skin that's coming off your body, changing every day. The biggest organ in your body is your skin, right? So impermanence is something that is worth taking a look at, and most of us don't. Most of us accept it and don't deal with it, don't think about it. And I'm not saying to become, fanatical about all these things, but there has to be a sense of awareness of this gratitude function and this impermanence function. And then the third thing is to have this function of compassion for yourself. To really ease up on your demands on yourself, because that way you have also an ease up of your other beings around you, whether it's your wife, your kids, whether it's your colleagues at work. Ease up, compassion, because we're all struggling. We're struggling with demons of all sorts that we inherited from our culture, from our upbringing, from our mothers and fathers, from society, and we're still suffering from the propaganda that we get from the empires that we have lived through. We end up thinking about, what I do in the mornings, about the wisdom traditions and the tools that allow a human being to begin to reformulate himself or herself into becoming, presencing what you are. So what you do is what you are. What you do is not something else outside of you. You come closer and closer and closer to really manifesting, shining out the goodness that you were born with, which got lost. And you do that through the work of contemplation, mindfulness, prayer, devotion. Zen and Buddhism, which I practice, doesn't have a corner in the market. I grew up as a Christian, as a Catholic, and there's beautiful, beautiful things within all those structures. I don't practice them the way I used to, or have a belief system like I used to, for a lot of reasons that we won't go into right now. But do I devalue them? Absolutely not. I hear people say, I'm a recovering Catholic. Lord have mercy. There's nothing to recover from other than your mindset. If you're a Jew, be a good practicing Jew. If you're Catholic, be a good practicing Catholic. If you're a Muslim, be a good practicing Muslim. If you're a Sufi, be a good practicing Sufi. If you're in a Kabbalah tradition, be a good Kabbalist. And if you're a good Buddhist, you could be a good Buddhist, a good Zen practitioner, but you could also practice Kabbalism. You could practice Sufism. There's no boundaries that says you can't go over there. Not for me. So I practice them all in many, many ways. That's interesting, isn't it? And ultimately, after many years Underline many years, many years. Underline practice, practice, practice. I want to be a concert pianist. I want to be a concert violinist. I want to be a concert singer. I want to be a jazz musician. Many, many years. Practice, practice, practice. I want to be a golf professional. Practice, practice, practice. Hit hundreds of balls. And as Tiger Woods was interviewed after winning the Masters in the height of his career, the greatest golfer at that time, and probably still is, that ever lived, was asked, what do you do now after the Masters, which I think is the last tournament in the tour? He says, I'm going to Florida to practice. What are you going to practice? My hand grip. In golf, the first thing that you practice is your hand grip. The greatest golfer in the world is going to go to practice and work on his hand grip? Do good. Do no evil. Do good for others. Practice your hand grip like Tiger Woods did when he was all of 24, 25, and he'd been playing like since he was 6 years old and probably practicing his hand grip. That's at the level that you have to practice whatever you choose to practice in. Whatever your belief system is, you have to hone it and own it and embody it. And when you do that, you begin to make some incredible wow moments. Because one of the things that you end up not losing during this whole process, I'm hoping that you didn't lose it. I didn't lose it. So that's why you see this 87-year-old here rapping like he was some 32-year-old or whatever, or 52 or 62 years old. Certainly I don't feel that 87 years old. Is that I have never lost my ability to be curious about everything. Right now, I think I'm an expert at my age in AI, AGI, cryptocurrency, quantum computing, physics. It wasn't what I studied. I got a Bachelor of Business Administration from Iona University with a major in finance. But I consider myself an expert. Why is that? Because I'm curious about everything. And my curiosity leads me to a space of creativity, of being able to sense the world. I tell people that I am an agriculturist because I love nature. I love to plant things. I love to prepare the ground, set the conditions for my plants. People say, I'm going to empower you. Well, no. You empower me nothing. I am empowered, my soul, my essence. Set the conditions for me to grow. And that's what I do. I set the conditions for people to grow and grow and grow. Just that I try to set the conditions for myself to grow. So, you end up in a place where you could truly say, in many ways, I'm at peace with myself. Now, am I in peace with myself? Yeah, I am. Does that happen all the time, 24 hours a day? No. 7 days a week? No. I live in a human vehicle, you might call it, a body that has all kinds of things going on. Something like, I don't know, 37 billion entities living in my body, and I don't know, 57 synapses, and there are there are all kinds of things in my body, and they all know what to do, and they're doing it without my permission. Mm. No, no, no. This body sometimes goes out of whack. Do I suffer from anger? Yeah. Do I suffer from hatred? Not so much anymore. I once in a while the hatred piece comes in, but I don't hate anything. And ignorance, ignorance is a big thing. I have tons of ignorance in myself, in my body, and I continue to grow. I continue to grow. Just because I've gotten to this age doesn't mean that I don't grow. I grow. And sometimes I grow faster and sometimes I grow slower. But I am interested in growing. And I'll tell you something else. I'm not interested in dying. I don't mind dying, but I don't want to go yet. Yeah. So I believe in longevity. I believe in life expansion. I believe that old age is a disease, and the biology of it can be reversed, and it's being reversed in the laboratories with mice. If you don't know anything about that, look up David St. Clair, a researcher at Boston MIT, doing incredible work in this area. Google, of course, and Amazon, and Elon Musk, all of them, those turkeys don't want to die either. So they're looking for life extension for a lot of reasons. I started the work of life extension way before any of these turkeys were around. Back in the 70s, I started writing about you have a right to live until you want to. And I started writing that aging was a disease, which now the National Health Services of the United States has categorized aging as a disease. For the first time 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it happened. Didn't happen recently. So yeah, I'm interested in continuing to live. Most people won't even deal with that question. I don't want to live that long. I don't want to live that long because they're thinking that they're going to live old and decrepit. I don't want to live to 160 old and decrepit either. I want to have a quality of life in my longevity, in my life expansion, that equals my level at maybe my late 30s, early 40s, or even earlier than that. All of that is possible, and it's on the table. And you'll see the first inklings of that in 5 years. 20, 30, 31, 32, you will see what I'm saying as being a true reality in many, many, many ways. I'm an advocate and a follower of those developments and that research on a week-to-week basis because it's moving that fast. The other thing that most people are going to get hit is what I call the tsunami, and the tsunami is the amount of change that is going to happen, and it's going to happen so quickly that the majority of people, and I'm not talking about old people, I'm talking about the majority of people, period, young people, my grandchildren, my children, your grandchildren, some of them might be 18, 17, who have not connected with the life that's approaching and the changes that are approaching in a way that they ought to. And those changes are going to happen. How fast? They're going to probably happen in the next 50 years. Bullshit. They're going to happen in the next year, 2 years, 12, 24, 12, 18, 24, 36 months. The changes that are going to happen are going to be so radical, so huge, the impact so massive that we have not seen anything like that in the last 300 years. We're also going to see a lot of social unrest. And most of us are not accepting that, even though Minnesota is blowing up over the immigration question. That's Minnesota. That's over there. That's the middle of the country. That's where right now it's like 30 below zero. It's not here. It's not Florida. It's not New York. That's Minnesota. What foolishness. It's coming. It's coming to you. It's coming to your state. It's coming to your country. The uprising, the social unrest is going to be huge. At the same time that there is this level of robots, agents being developed to help you, unemployment being able to redefine itself, because the work that we do now is gone. Last year, 2025, Amazon and some of the big ones, Apple, and 100,000 people were lost their employment. It's not it's not headlines, right? 100,000 people. This coming year probably be 200,000. What's going to happen? How are people going to be retrained? Well, I've seen so many people are not aware of this, and so many people are hiding and putting their heads in the sand. You know, this train is going to pass right over them, and they're not going to see it, and it's going to be very difficult for them to catch up. You know, it's the same issue that we're talking about, and I hear parents, should my kid go to college or not go to college? When I went to college, college offered me an opportunity to be able to get a degree and make more money than a high school graduate. When I graduated in 1964, was that true or was that false? That was true to a large degree. What you did with your degree enabled you to be present to the world, and it was on you, but you had a calling card. You had a credit card. You had a credit card, which is my degree. I went to college. I took a liberal arts education. I took a specialty in finance and accounting. I am a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm a social worker. If you ask the same question now, today, is it true? No. I don't have to tell you how many PhDs, master's degree people out there unemployed. And they pay huge amounts of money to get educated, and they're in debt up to their yin-yang, up to their earlobes. So the question is, if college is not the answer, unless college reforms itself, which they're trying to, because college was about imparting information, imparting certain kinds of skills, imparting this, imparting that. Well, you don't need college to do that. The information, you can get all the information you can in the web, in the internet, in YouTube, in Google, in ChatGPT, in Gemini, in any of the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 large language learners that are out there. Somebody said last night in a show that I was watching that he spends $100,000 a day in fees in ChatGPT. This is an MIT researcher who has all of the large language learners as he evolves and develops all kinds of things. Now, universities in that context will change that way. Some people might want to go to college to do that. But if you go to college today, it's mostly about the socialization. It's not about what you're going to learn. Because what you're going to learn is not going to be useful. Some people are saying that, they're building these data centers. If you haven't heard about the data centers, look them up. Data centers are huge. They're the tiling the nation, because the data center is like tiles, huge humongous tiles. Each center is probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 football fields. They're huge places. And to build those things, they need electricians, they need plumbers. They need people who know how to not only run wires, but manage wires, structural people, what we used to call the trades for the people who are not so smart. Well, the people who are not so smart are going to be able to make a lot of money if they choose to, and have skills around that, because they're going to be making anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 a year in their skill sets. Yeah, plumbing, electrical, bricklayers, iron workers. No, I am not depressed. I am excited about the world that I live in. And I will remake myself. I will reboot myself. And I will continue to use this platform to share, and to share two ways, because I want to be able to have you out there come back to me with what you know, because and what you don't know, because it's important. This is about relationships. We're relational, and we learn in relationships. We don't learn because we invented it. Yes, some of us can read nature. Some of us can read trees. Some of us can talk to plants. Some of us can do that, but that's not too many of us. We need to be able to have at least a two-way flow, or an undulation of the heartbeat, or undulation of the earth. The earth has a heartbeat from night to day, from full moon to dark moon. It goes like this, and there's different energies on that, and we're all manifestations of that energy. But when we're together, and when we're in a circle of people, and we're doing this together, there's a level of energy that gets created, in which almost we create a third. If there are an extra force, if there's 10 of us doing this, there'll be an 11th force that we cannot see creating this. When I asked Bernie Glassman, can enlightenment, whatever that means, can it come from a group rather than from a teacher to student? He said, absolutely yes. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese teacher, incredible teacher. If you never heard of Thich Nhat Hanh, look him up. Also said the same thing. So in the future, it's going to be about the collaborative. It's going to be about the radical collaborative cooperation that we have among each other. And so it is in that context that I want to continue to do what I want to do, what I need to do, what I am. And so, as one of my favorite guys, Uncle Mike, I believe, in YouTube says, if you're not dead, you're not done. So I will continue to be here. I will continue to do my videos. I will continue to offer one-on-one consultations if people want that. I will not only be on YouTube, but I'll be in all the social medias. And in particularly, I'll be developing a format in school, SKOOL. And in that format, under my name, Francisco Lugovina, and Beginner's Mind is the title of that platform. So Paco Zen, Francisco Lugovina, Paco Genko G, Paco Zen in YouTube, and on school, SKOOL, is Beginner's Mind, Francisco Lugovina. Those two will be the heartbeat of the kinds of things that I want to do. And of course, I want to continue to work with Soil and Soul and the work they do with immigrants in family circles, eco healing, and mindfulness clubs in high school. And now we're negotiating with um, um, a group called Common, which is headed by Mark Eckhart out of Denmark, to see if we can do a collaborative thing. We're also negotiating with Zen Peacemaker International to do partnerships to develop some of the very beautiful things that we offer here in Delray Beach, Florida. So that's pretty much a broad picture of what I do, where I am, the kinds of things that I want to accomplish, and I believe there's a donation button somewhere in these portals that I have. I'm not sure that I put them up, but if you could once in a while get inspired to buy me coffee for $8, $10, I'll take it. No problem. No donation, no dana is small enough. They're all important, whether it's $1 or a quarter. I'm a monk, I'm a beggar. I learned to do that in my street retreats. So with that, I'm going to leave you. With that, I'm going to say, may you be blessed. May you be joyous. May you be happy. May you live in gratitude. And may you find laughter in everything you do. Because without laughter, then you miss the whole point. I hope that you don't land in that funny hole of perfection. Wherever you are, whatever you do, whatever you are trying to do, you're okay. You're okay the way you are. Just keep improving it every day. Just say to yourself, tomorrow I want to be better than I was today. Incremental, tiny improvements. But consistency is an incredible thing. Love you all. I'll see you next time.